actually really not bad. What's up everybody, Sean here, AN Productions, and before I get started today, I just wanted to give a quick thanks to everyone who watches my dumb videos, because I'm at 2,000 subscribers. Well, not technically, I'm like just under. Originally this was gonna be like a 2,000 subscriber video, but last I checked I'm at like 1995, 96, something like that, so I'm gonna say that's close enough, whatever. So I know in the grand scheme of things, 2,000 really isn't that much compared to like most YouTube channels, but it's just really cool for me because, you know, a lot of people make videos talking about a certain subject, or maybe they talk about other people's games, but you guys are watching me talk about my own game, which is like an extra level of cool, so I really appreciate that. Also, before I forget, so our publisher sent us these ridiculous blankets that are amazing with like freaking, I mean, look at this. This is like an embroidered logo. Can you see that? Is that in the camera? It's both the heaviest and softest blanket I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, so they sent us these for a little Christmas holiday present. So guys, Armor Games, thank you. This is amazing. Anyway, so I think in last video I was talking about wanting to show you guys some of the programmable auto combat systems that we had in Soda Dungeon 2. Unfortunately, that's not quite ready to show yet, which I was afraid would be the case. Instead, I've been working on the sort of like Dimension 1 to Dimension 2 transition, the basic relic system, essence, leveling up your relics, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I've been working on. And then also, if you follow us on Twitter, you've probably seen us talk about trying to fix the iOS save transfer system, which is basically done but needs a lot of testing. So that's just been kind of eating up a lot of random time that we would otherwise be able to spend working on stuff. So it's not a huge deal, but you know, we need to get it fixed and we're almost there. So hopefully we'll be there soon. So instead today, I pretty much just wanted to talk a little bit about our next alpha test that's upcoming. So we're gonna do a second alpha. We did our first one a few months ago. Everything was great. We got a lot of feedback. We made some important changes to the game. It was very exciting and also nerve-wracking to kind of have people play Soda Dungeon 2 for the first time, even in that early of a state. So I want to talk about Alpha 2 and what we have planned for it, but I have to stress this is very tentative. I have to put that out there because I know you guys are super excited about stuff. Sometimes this has happened where if I go into our Discord channel and someone will ask a question and I'll say, oh well, maybe this or maybe that. I've come back in later and people are like quoting it as fact, which I really appreciate the enthusiasm, but I've got to be careful about that because, you know, then if we say that, hey, we'd like to release Soda Dungeon 2 in 2019, to some people that means January 1st, 2019, and to some people that means December 31st, 2019. So there's a pretty big gray area there that falls in between those two extremes. So I'll start by saying that my personal goal for the second alpha is to release it in late February, in basically a couple months. Unfortunately, I have some very big IRL, that's in real life, events coming up. So if you follow me on Twitter, you may already know about that. I'm not going to go into it here, but regardless, you're probably going to be hearing about it very soon anyway, so we'll get there when the time comes. What does Alpha 2 include? Okay, so personal goals for Alpha 2. 3 dimensions, 2 more classes, one of which should be the Thief. You're going to have some relics, you're going to have some essence, you're going to maybe have some leveled items, like, you know, sword level 2, so on and so forth. You're going to have a basic arena. And when I say basic, I basically mean like Soda Dungeon 1 style of arena, with sort of like the 10 levels and increasing difficulty and rewards. We would like to expand the arena into like higher tiers of difficulty that add more rewards as you go on, but we're not quite there yet. I'd like to have some stables. Again, a basic stables where maybe just a couple pets to show how the system works without having like all 10 or 12 or however many pets we have. You're going to be able to check out the new portal and key system that's replaced the old choose a path system from the first game. I forget if I talked about this in the last video or maybe just posted about it on Twitter. I think we did a little animation of the portal unlocking. But basically we have a system that's very similar to what we had before, but there's an additional choice to it. And as you play the dungeon, you will acquire keys from certain enemies, like mini bosses or bosses. And when you come across these portals, one of them will actually have, it'll tell you what it is. It'll be something positive, like it'll say this will go to the fountain, and if you want, you can choose to spend one of your keys to unlock that portal. So there's a little bit more strategy involved in saving your keys and using them for certain pathways. And then I think we'd also like to have the keys, for example, if you save your keys, you can maybe use them on certain chests to get a guaranteed better reward. We don't have that in yet, but that's kind of the line of thinking we're trying with the new key system. Lastly, of course, would be the actual auto combat customization system that I keep talking about. And as I said before, the core of it is all in the game. There's just no front end to it. So that's the tricky part, is basically setting up a way for you to go to each class, kind of create like a script file or whatever, and start to pick and choose the options you want to customize their combat. Now, I did a video on this a while ago, and I just want to point out that the system has changed a lot for the better. The previous system was actually closer to real programming, where you would sort of use like a pseudocode or just like a sub-language, like a basic scripting language to actually write out what you want to do with certain characters. And it was neat in theory, but it was really cumbersome, and it's not really something that the average game player wants to use. Like, I didn't want to use it. So we scrapped that. We're back to well, not back, it's been changed to a much more streamlined system, where it's more about choosing kind of like from a list of priorities what you want a certain character to do. So that I've got to get that in the alpha, because I think that's a huge thing that I really want to get some feedback on. So definitely, if the alpha doesn't come in February, it'll probably be due to something like that, trying to making sure that we get that system in. All right, and then we've got some maybes. We're already on thin ice with, I feel like we're already kind of pushing it with getting in the stuff by February. But if for some reason we have more time, I would like to also maybe include some basic class masteries, maybe some gems, maybe some more craftable items. So by class masteries, I mean, we kind of have this potential system in place that would sort of build upon and kind of replace or improve the class relics from Soda Dungeon 1. So for example, if you had a Soda Junkie relic that you could level up and give the Soda Junkie more stats, we're thinking about doing something similar, but for more of a progression system based on your usage of the class, and you would get small rewards along the way. And then eventually at some point, that would become kind of uncapped. So you get to a point where then, once you finish your class mastery or progression, then you would sort of gain access to that class's relic, and then you could kind of go crazy with your essence and just start leveling up, you know, to whatever. But it's sort of a more robust system, instead of just saying, hey, here's the class's relic, just, you know, make them stronger now. So that's something we're kind of playing with. I'd love for that to make it in, but something tells me it probably won't quite happen. On top of all that, you have the usual bug fixes, UI improvements, basic stuff like that. I mean, nothing really to get too excited about. It's just standard game development stuff. If you played the previous alpha, we did, you know, we slightly more organized the crafting menu this time, so it's at least a little easier to see at a glance what you can and can't craft, and what categories you can choose from. So that's, you know, that is one thing. Alpha 2 will still only be for Steam and Android, just like the first time, unfortunately. I know a lot of iOS users are excited to play, and once we get to a beta phase, we are definitely planning to include iOS products. And, you know, Apple has been great to us, and we love them. It's just a little more difficult, as I've mentioned, to get builds processed and up and running with them. A part of that is just because of my development environment. I work on PC natively, so anytime we do an iOS build, I've got to get all the files transferred to my Mac and kind of get everything rebuilt, and it adds steps to the process, and it's just in general, it's harder to manage 3 releases, even alpha and beta, compared to 2. So this time I think we're going to do about 500 people in the test. Again, don't quote me, we're still not sure. So that would be, you know, 200 above what we had before, which will make it much easier for people to get into the test. However, we do want to give preference to previous testers, because it's really important to try and figure out, or to give people who played the previous game, or sorry, the previous alpha, give them access to the new alpha, and they can kind of give us direct feedback on how they felt the game improved, or maybe didn't improve from part 1 to part 2. So that being said, I doubt that all 300 people from the original test are going to want to play this one. Just, you know, things happen, people move on, people forget about the game, people just lose interest, you know. So I doubt that 300 spots are automatically taken, but we will most likely contact those users first. Also, data will be wiped. So if you had a file set up in the previous alpha and you move to this one, you'll be starting fresh, just because basically with each version of the game, the save file format changes, and it's not realistic to try and carry over every piece of that. Now, when we get to a more stable beta type of release, then we will be looking to maintain the save file. But again, for now, it's just going to be resetting. All right, guys, I think that's about it for this video. As always, thank you for watching. If you like this content, then hey, you know, give us a like, give us a subscribe, follow us on Twitter, follow me on Twitter, check out our Discord, check out our subreddit, check out our Steam page. There are more ways to stay connected with Soda Dungeon than should probably ever exist, but they're all there, and I hope everyone has a safe and happy holiday, and I will see you guys next year.